think I probably realised I was gay when I was about 10 or 11. I definitely felt different to my friends, and I realised that there were things about me that didn't quite fit with the people I was in school with and the people I hung around with. So, but I think because I felt different at such a young age, it was quite a scary thing for me. I grew up in Swansea in South Wales, and it's probably fair to say my mum's side of the family were quite traditional, and I was really quite scared of, broaching the subject with her. But my dad's family was slightly more liberal, I would say. My dad is a much more relaxed kind of person. So when I was about 13, I decided to come out to my dad, and I was still petrified. I was very concerned that they were going to totally reject me, and that they'd be absolutely devastated. And my dad, I remember, was absolutely fantastic. He actually told me that he was hugely relieved that was what I was telling him, and he'd actually been petrified I was going to tell him I was pregnant, and he was actually really pleased that I wasn't. So I think probably the thing that struck me about that was you make all sorts of assumptions about how people are going to react to news or react to something that you think is negative or bad. And the important thing is to not assume how people are going to react to, who you are. And at the end of the day, it made me realise that my dad had loved me for who I was. And the fact that I was gay was just part of me, really. And he still loved me as his daughter. And it didn't make any difference. And I think now actually he probably prefers my partner Debs to me. So yeah, I think the issue about coming out though is that it's not a once in a lifetime thing. It's something you have to do. Sometimes you have to do it every day because people make assumptions. Not necessarily always in a negative way, but people make assumptions about what kind of lifestyle people lead. So you can sometimes find yourself in a situation where you have to correct somebody who said your husband or your partner or your boyfriend. And so sometimes that's a little bit awkward. I didn't come out professionally until about 2003. Before that, I'd not felt comfortable being out in work, really. And I don't know whether that was because, I didn't really make friends with the people I worked with in the job I had before, but I made a conscious decision when I moved to a new job in Sheffield in about 2003 that I wanted to be out to all of the people I worked with, because the experience I'd had of not being out, when I reflected on it, it made me wonder actually whether that was one of the reasons why I'd found it harder to sort of build relationships with people in the workplace, in a more social sense, if you like. So, when you don't feel like you can be totally honest about what you did over the weekend or what your holiday plans are or, what film you saw in the cinema the other day, that kind of thing, it means that you can't be very sort of approachable with people. And I think they probably find it really hard to get to know who you are. So, I'd find myself being really guarded about what I'd done over the weekend or in my social life, and even though I didn't want to lie, but inevitably you sort of find yourself sort of bending the truth, and when I asked myself why I was doing that, I couldn't really work out why I felt the need to not be upfront and honest with people. So when I came up to Sheffield in 2003, I made a conscious decision to be totally upfront with everybody, and by and large, I've not had any negative experiences really. I can honestly say that people have been absolutely fine with me. I mean, I think sometimes there are instances where you maybe you don't feel excluded necessarily, but you kind of feel on the fringes of certain conversations. Like you can't join in, but then that could be applied to if you were in an office where people were talking about football and you don't like football and things like that. But I've never felt the need to hide my sexuality. Certainly, I mean, there wasn't really a need to hide it before 2003, but that was I would say my lack of confidence in being totally honest about who I was with people. I've lived in Sheffield for about 8 years now, and I can't honestly say I find it the most. It's not the most colourful or maybe active of cities, really, in terms of what's going on if you're gay. It doesn't compare to places like Manchester. But having said that, I've never had any experiences of any negativity, or I've never felt threatened or anything like that in Sheffield. In terms of the university, I'm a relatively new member of staff here, and I've had overwhelmingly positive experiences to date. I was aware that the university was a Stonewall champion when I was applying for the job, so I understood that the university took its commitment to making sure gay members of staff felt comfortable and felt supported and like they were working in an environment of equality was key to the university, really. So I've had absolutely no reservations about being totally upfront with people about who I am and what my personal circumstances are.